Hello and welcome back. So this section is all about a different aspect of acceptance. And today I'm going to be talking about accepting the impact your mother wound has had on your life. And for us to start grieving those lost years together. Before we jump into it, let's remind ourselves you have the capacity to deal with the feelings that might come up. And if at any point it feels too much, it feels overwhelming, pause. You don't need to plow through these videos. You do them in your own time. You do them in a way that is aligned with what you can cope with and your nervous system feels able to cope with. And you can pause and you reset. You can go and do something to take care of yourself, maybe have a little break if you need to, but just keep going steadily through. But remind yourself that you do ultimately have the capacity to cope with the feelings that this healing process will bring up, and that it's important to take care of yourself as you're healing. It's important to be looking after yourself, making sure the basics are all okay, good sleep, good nutrition, time outside, time in nature, contact with other people, alone time, rest, that we're incorporating all of that, taking care of yourself as you are healing. So to me, this particular topic of accepting the kind of the lost years, grieving the lost years, and thinking about how your mother wound has affected different aspects of your life, to me, this is one of the hardest parts of healing, because once we start peeling back those layers and thinking about what has happened in a different way, we start kind of viewing things differently, we have a shift in perspective, a shift in understanding, then suddenly, it's disruptive, isn't it? And what we then start doing is thinking about what might have been. It's natural to think, how might things have been different if if I hadn't have experienced a mother wound in this kind of way? How might my life have been better? How might I maybe have had parts of my experience of life, relationships, maybe self-esteem, maybe things financially, things in terms of your career, maybe some of those things could have been better, could have felt easier if I hadn't have been affected by my mother wound for all of these years. So this is really hard stuff, and it's actually quite a kind of art to walk this fine line between validating your feelings and validating your emotions about this loss and about this idea that things might have been easier. We're validating that, but of course making sure also that you don't get stuck there, because there is a bit of a temptation, really. We can get lost in this part of the process. We can find ourselves kind of drowning in that frustration sometimes, in the regret, in wishing it was different. Ultimately, there's nothing more precious than time in life. That is what we all, without time, we're not in the game anymore, right? We can't do anything. And so the thought that we maybe have lost chunks of time, we've lost some periods of our life to struggle that we might objectively think was avoidable, could have been different, could have been avoidable. That is a really difficult thing to process. It can become overwhelming. So what we want to do really here is not spend too long in the what ifs, because you really can't make progress from that place. Also, of course, we're never dismissing feelings. We're allowing ourselves to feel them and validating our own emotions always. But we're also, as I say, not getting stuck there, not getting consumed with those what ifs. So really we're trying to find a way to face it, and also at the same time stay focused on creating a good and full life experience, and on just kind of making space to actually experience life as well. Because of course, when we're thinking back on this, how things could have been, or maybe I wouldn't have had to go through all of those difficult relationships if I'd have had a better relationship with my mother, as an example. Let's use that example. When we're doing that, we are ultimately taking ourselves away from the current moment. which is a part of healing that happens and that is necessary, that we are processing, that we're thinking about things, but we're ultimately wanting to always bring ourselves back around to what is true and real now. And that is our current experience of life as it is unfolding. And also to be putting some energy towards how we might want the future to look, to be kind of taking that ownership, that agency, kind of being in control of what we can be. There are many, many things in life we cannot control at all, but making decisions and choices and living with intention as much as we can. Now, what I want you to do is just to think a bit about, for you specifically, how your mother wound maybe has affected your life. This is not something that is a sort of tick box exercise, or it's not even necessarily, it's not very straightforward to know exactly how your mother wound might have affected you. It may be that you've thought about this quite a lot and have made some links that feel quite kind of true for you. It may be that isn't the case, and so you might need to spend a little bit more time just kind of considering it a little bit. And this doesn't have to be based on, this can't be factual, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. It can't be factual because it is subjective, and there's no way to objectively know how something from our past has affected us. But I want you to trust your gut instinct and trust the sense that you might have about how certain aspects of your life may have been affected. So let me give you some examples. You might feel maybe quite strongly that your tendency to people please is rooted in your desire to please your mother, which you grew up with, as an example. You may know that your difficulty trusting other women comes from a difficulty being able to trust your mother. You might feel that your issues with your body are related to how your mother felt about her body. And this doesn't even mean that you're kind of attributing all of that difficulty just to your mother. Let's say with body image, for example, it may be that your mother had a difficult relationship with her own body, and that you very much picked up on that you internalize that you have, maybe you struggle with that yourself now, or maybe you have struggled with that over the years. We can also say maybe it's also been society, maybe it's also been friends you grew up with, or siblings, or things you saw on television, or etc. But there might also be a strong sense that you have that seeing and hearing your mother talk badly about her body really did affect you. And ultimately, you don't need to justify the answers that you get to with this. This is just for you to be doing this exploration work. So I would invite you now to take a moment and pause this video and write down 4 ways that you believe that your life and your relationships, and maybe your relationship with yourself, has been affected by your mother wound. And once you've done that, jump back into this video. So now that you've identified hopefully around 4 ways in which your mother wound has affected you, I want to invite you to really connect with the things that you wrote down. Maybe you did during the exercise anyway, but really kind of let yourself feel whether it's sadness about those things, maybe some anger, maybe regret, frustration. Kind of let yourself connect with those things. Because this is the work. This is where you're processing, and when we process, things shift. So just letting yourself kind of really feel whatever you feel about those parts of your life that have been affected by your mother wound. And now let's also bring ourselves back to what we know now. We know you are strong. You are resourceful, you are aware, you are capable of healing. I know this because otherwise you wouldn't even have considered investing in this kind of course, this kind of material. You wouldn't even be able or capable of doing this kind of work. So I know this of you. I know that you're aware. I know that you're capable of healing and capable in life. And ultimately, you are able to make progress in all of those areas that you wrote down. So it might be that some of the things you wrote down are in your past and they feel somewhat resolved. And really what we're doing here is grieving for the fact that you had to experience them at all. But it may be that some of the things that you've written down that have been affected by your mother wound there's still ongoing struggles, that you maybe still are struggling with people pleasing, maybe still struggling with body image issues, maybe still struggling with kind of speaking up and saying your piece and being bold. So if that's the case, if you find yourself in that state of being in current struggle around those topics, just know that you are capable of making them feel better. You are capable of making progress. You do not have to stay stuck. So we can feel sad about these things and angry and frustrated and feel that regret, which is very real. It's very valid. And we can also know that it doesn't have to stay this way. And those lost years, it's hard. It's really hard. Just take a moment, give yourself some space, some grace to take a moment and feel how hard it is to know that life might have been easier for chunks of your life. And who knows, you may be sat here watching this in your 20s, you may be sat here watching this in your 70s, and actually either way it's painful to feel that there was arguably unnecessary suffering and lost time. And let's not even think too much about the future for now, because the future is never guaranteed for anybody, whatever age we are. But let's just think about this present moment, because this present moment is true and real. It is available. In this present moment, your mother wound is no longer something that is dominating you. You are here taking control of it. You are in charge of it. And you are ultimately going to be able to develop a more full and thorough and more meaningful experience of life because you are doing this work. And that is not excusing it, that is not saying it's okay, that is not saying it's worth it or worthwhile, none of that stuff. But I do believe that because you have been called to do this work on yourself, you're going to be looking at yourself and making sense of your own patterns and ways of living, and you're going to be doing all of that in such a deep way that you would not have done if you didn't have a mother wound to work through. And so let's just think about kind of this present moment now, and then also we can look ahead to what is still to come and remind ourselves that you have the capacity to craft aspects of your future in a way that is no longer informed by your mother wound. You can live a life that is independent of that as you go forward, as you heal more, as you move deeper into the work. So I understand pain, the frustration, but let us also stay grounded in the now, in this moment that's real and true and available, and let yourself feel that sadness. The more you feel that the sadness for the lost time, for the lost years, the less intense that sadness will become. Again, the more we push our feelings away, then they come back with more strength. They want to be heard. Our emotions are like, we can think of them as like little toddlers or small children. they want to be heard, and if they're not, they will find a way to make themselves heard. So let's just hear them, let's just hear those emotions, and then they will ultimately it doesn't mean that it will suddenly be okay, but I think at some point you'll find that it just isn't so much of a focus anymore for you. So I hope that this has been helpful for you today. As with everything in this section, because it's about acceptance and grieving, I'm not thinking that you're going to just be watching the videos and then it's done. You know, this is really to facilitate that grieving process that will happen in layers and waves. But hopefully that is that's what we've done today, is kind of started this process for you of grieving the impact of the mother wound. And so ultimately we can move forward without being so impacted by it. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.